Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Hero Movie Podcast. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sean Koufax,
son of Jarrell Neal Bavorzad,
and of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and after watching this movie, I definitely know which one of Superman's powers I'd like to have.
Oh boy, we are back another week, and I want to say first and foremost here, thank you to everybody for downloading the show last week, man. Numbers went up dramatically, as they tend to do for these things, but as you also might imagine, with Avengers Endgame now at the number 2 worldwide highest grossing film of all time, not really a surprise our numbers went up a little bit.
Did we get 2 billion downloads?
Not 2 billion. I'm a little bit disappointed with that. Really should have been not even half a billion.
How do we break into that Chinese market? Am I right, boy?
I'm right. Yeah, listen.
I'm studying Mandarin as we speak.
We're going to do our darndest to get there, but if you've joined us yet again, welcome. And I think we do have many people that have helped join up this week, because guess what, boys? We have a whole slew of new Patreon supporters. Supporters.
Salt of the earth.
And guess what? The nice part is we've already got nicknames for you all, so we're going to break those down for you right now. First of all, we got to thank Benjamin Crusher for Crusher? Sure. For he came in at the $5 level. What do we got for Benjamin?
Ben, what's his last name? Crutcher?
Crutcher.
Ben Crutcher, you are now, according to HMP, your nickname is now Thunder Snow.
All right.
Oh, I love that one. You have the best nickname, Sean.
Hey, thanks, bub.
All right, so we got Thunder Snow. Coming up next, we got Travis Brunstead. Travis is coming in also at the $5 level.
Travis Brunstead, according to HMP lore, your new nickname shall be Daddy's Little Prince.
Ooh.
Hey, that's an error is what we call that.
DLP for short.
Good old DLP. You're a projection system and a Patreon supporter. Good friend Ollie Evans coming back. He is on board for $5.
Ollie Evans, according to HMP lore, your new nickname shall be Panta Threat.
Ooh.
Nice.
I'm writing all these down so we don't forget them, because we need to put them all in a book or something, or at least up on the website or something along those lines. Next up at the $5 level, one Anthony Phillips.
Anthony Phillips, according to HMP lore, your nickname shall forever be Chop Saki.
Ooh, one of my favorite types of film.
Ooh, yeah. Throwing the curveball, I thought for sure you were going Chop Suey.
And last to our new Patreon supporters, Gregory Davis. Again, $5.
Gregory Davis, according to HMP lore, your new nickname shall forever be D-Force.
D-Force. Now, is that D-Force?
D-Force.
All right, good. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. So, yes, welcome to the family, new supporters. Thunder, shut up.
Quick.
Go ahead.
If anyone named Bill is listening, please become a Patreon supporter, because I've got the perfect nickname.
Man, I am so glad that you took time out for your terrible garbage joke.
Thanks. So if you would like to join the ranks of Thunder Snow, Daddy's Little Prince, Penta Threat, Chop Saki, and D-Force, head on over to patreon.com/HMP and join up. Now, we do need to, since it is the top of the month and everything, we need to give shout-outs here to our executive producers, Tim, Matt, Alex, and, of course, RocketFace. And number one top supporter here, Sirish, coming in at $40. Oh, my goodness. Sirish, you're going to get yourself another T-shirt, my friend. We just designed a new one. And if you'd like that T-shirt, you can support at that $40 level, or go to our HeroMoviePodcast.com website and just click on the links, find the shop button, and that will bring you over to our store. And you can get the brand new shirt, Melted Ice Cream, because our buddy Thor is, He's not looking so hot these days, but you know what? He's not letting him drag himself down. So if you want to get a new melted ice cream shirt, head on over to that page, HeroMoviePodcast.com. Check that out. And, thank you, everybody that supports us over at Patreon.
I'm sorry, Adam, to derail that train, because you are flying right now. What's the Thor connection to melted ice cream?
Okay, so when Rocket Raccoon sees Thor, Fat Thor, he just goes, "You look like melted ice cream." And
Oh, okay.
So anyone, and they have sizes, I think, small all the way up to 5X. So even if you are a melty ice cream like myself, you can go get yourself a nice shirt that'll fit you and, help support this show at the same time. HeroMoviePodcast.com. Check it out. For those of you that don't know about the Patreon, you guys get the pre-show, post-show, our Dinger Zone episode, which this week we actually talked a lot about television shows and what we like, what we don't, and we also realized that apparently I don't watch television. So, but if you'd like to figure out all the, hey, as long as I can keep getting a reaction's all I need.
I don't even own a phonograph.
Yeah, I do own a phonograph. All right,
you really don't understand what music sounds like till you hear it reel to reel.
Oh man, I need to have a party.
I've actually I went into a pretty big audio file. I didn't know the guy or anything, but I went to his house and he was the most unbelievable record collection I've ever seen in my entire life. And he had a reel to reel as well. I was just like, this guy is into it, boy. That's what happens when you're mega rich. All right, so we're not mega rich, so head on over to patreon.com/HMP. Join up today and get all the lovely benefits that go into it as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Here is the trailer for this week's review of Superman
2. Superman 2. The adventure continues with the 3 villains from Krypton. Each one with the same powers as Superman. Each one dedicated to violence against mankind.
Think of it. 3 supervillains. Or 4 if you count him twice.
The adventure continues in Paris with Lois Lane.
I believe this is your floor.
If you've only seen the first part, you haven't seen the best part. The adventure continues in Superman 2.
Alrighty, everybody, that was the trailer for Superman 2, our first...
Welcome to Superman 2.
Here's the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. Superman agrees to sacrifice his powers to start a relationship with Lois Lane, unaware that 3 Kryptonian criminals inadvertently that's written incorrectly. He inadvertently...
He can do better. He can do better than Lois anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Inadvertently released criminals to conquer Earth. Of course, starring Gene Hackman, Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, Ned Beatty, and a whole mess of others. We've done it all the time, and this is... I want to say it's close to our last Christopher Reeve Superman film, but you know what? I got a good feeling that our boy Bruce knows what he's doing, so let's do it.
It's time for Bruce's comic book connection.
What do you got, Bruce?
How about a reverse comic book connection? Have you guys ever seen me flip it around, reverse it?
What?
He's going Missy Elliott style on all of us.
Oh my God!
Is your furry nipple sweating yet? How about a case of tail wagging the dog this week? Because we're going to talk about how the movie influenced the comics. In 2006, Richard Donner and Jeff Jones co-wrote a run on Action Comics, a story arc called Last Son, and characters that were introduced in the first 2 Superman movies made their way to the 4-color pages that take up so much storage space in my mind palace. Now, Zod's female co-conspirator was originally in the comics a character named Feora, but in Action Comics number 845, Ursa showed up for the first time in print. She's depicted as a hater of any member of the male gender anywhere. The only exceptions to this, of course, appear to be Non and General Zod.
They're all haters.
Now, for the record, Feora, who appeared in 1977, also hates all members of the male sex and was, in fact, sentenced to the Phantom Zone for wantonly causing the death of 23 Kryptonian men in her own male concentration camp. But Ursa is not Feora, because Ursa didn't come around until 1978 and has a different name, totally saving the Salkins a solid $1,200 of production costs. But back But back to the Donner, Jeff Johns, last son story arc. In this story, Lois and Clark adopt a mysterious orphan of Kryptonian origin. Well, I hope you're ready to drop your jaws, guys, because Zod and Ursa are the parents of the Kryptonian boy.
What? Get out of here! Oh my God!
Now, that would have been a good plot for Superman 3. And listen to me here. Stay with me. Richard Pryor could have played the baby. Like, think Little Man, but with superpowers.
Oh, man, how much funnier would Little Man be if it were Richard Pryor?
Yes. But back before the doom of Krypton, Ursa was a member of the Kryptonian Guard, along with a big, clever, and very talkative guy named Non. In addition to being a soldier, Non was a friend to Jor-El, as well as a member of the Kryptonian Council. But what happened, because he supported Jor-El, Non was abducted by the Science Council and lobotomized, leading to his current status as a minimally verbal brute.
2 seconds. You never really hear anyone say this scientific group kidnapped somebody. You don't really hear that a whole lot.
Yeah, but how about
apparently you're not familiar with the Germans.
That's true.
But how about that Non, guys? That Non backstory may be the most tragic and interesting part of the entire Donnerverse. Well, maybe second to Sloth Fratelli's history as an astronaut who was horribly disfigured when he attempted to save a kitten from a launch pad. But that's a story for another podcast.
Fratelli? The last name is Fratelli, like the Goonies?
Yeah, Sloth is his first name, Sloth Fratelli from Goonies. But like I said, that's a story for another podcast. And by the way, be on the lookout for Never Say Die, a Goonies podcast hosted by yours truly and Corey Feldman. I have it on very good authority that Feldman is available. So
how is Feldman able to get you is the big question.
Yeah, he should be returning my Twitter DM any day now. So I'll get back to you guys. But back to Non. In an Action Comics annual, it is explained that after Zod and Ursa gave birth to their son, who would later become known as Christopher Kent, Non behaved not only docile, but caring towards the child during his early childhood. After Superman and his adopted son, Chris, re-imprisoned Zod, Ursa, and Non in the Phantom Zone, Chris took secret refuge in the prison with only Non aware of him. Non continued to behave as a protective caretaker towards Chris, bringing him food, hiding him from his parents. But when Chris was at last found out and tortured by Ursa and Zod, Non turned against Zod, and he helped in Chris's rescue efforts. In order to punish Non, Zod forces the Big Mute to battle some wild space beast, and Superman intervenes on Non's behalf. Ever since then, Non has been loyal to Superman, pulling off what wrestling fans call a heel face turn. Now, further exploration of Non's backstory reveals that it was the cruelty perpetrated by the Science Council against Non that caused Zod to snap and incite his full-fledged rebellion in the first place, which has me eager for that storyline to be explored in Season 9 of Krypton on Sci-Fi.
Oh, man, if only Season 9.
Following DC's rebirth, Ursa has been reintroduced into the new continuity as Zod's wife, along with their son, Lord Zod, who happens to be the Chris Kent from before Flashpoint reset everything into the New 52. But the Zod family unit has escaped the Phantom Zone and went to a planet with not one, but two yellow suns. Yes, that makes them twice as good as Superman now. And they go there to establish New Krypton. As far as I know, Non is yet to make an appearance in the current continuity, but when he does, I'm sure he will grunt his way into the hearts of a whole new group of readers.
So, Bruce, come clean. You just made all of that up, right? That never happened.
I promise that the whole thing about Sloth Fratelli being an astronaut is probably true.
Does anyone else like Sean, do you like how he just throws out the name like we all know it, like George Papard or something, and we all just go like, oh, okay.
If you know, like I literally had to stop everything and go, Sloth Fratelli, like from the Goonies? Fratelli?
Sloth did have a last name. He prefers you call him Mr. Fratelli if you're nasty.
Well, I know the Fratellis are the family. I mean, it's the entire family are the Fratellis. It's like the big thing in that movie.
Mama Fratelli was not a young Sam Kinison like I thought originally.
Oh, if she was alive, man, we could have had that movie a long time ago. Doggone it.
That was my sister's first impression that she was able to do was
Mama Fratelli.
Mama Fratelli, although she could only do Mama from Throw Mama from the Train.
You don't have a cousin, I
Oh, you lazy poop.
My very first impression was Peter Boyle's monster from Young Frankenstein. When he's singing "Putting on the Ritz," I was great at that. I'd fill my mouth with Ritz crackers and go "Putting on the Ritz," and my family loved it. Laugh for hours.
And he's a doctor today. Can you believe that crap?
And catch me with a handful of Ritz crackers. I can already tell you where that's going.
Well, I do want to just preface everything here by saying what we're talking about
Spoilers.
right now. Well, spoilers. But what we're going to be talking about is actually the theatrical cut for Superman 2, not the Richard Donner cut, because that's what's available.
And not the television cut, which was also different.
Which was
The
also
Lester
longer.
Cut.
Yeah.
The Lester cut.
Yeah, so a little bit of Lester action here, a little less Richard Donner. Huh? I don't even.
I can't believe it.
Every now and then.
coming through, Duck. So let me ask you guys a question here. When is the last time you saw Superman 2?
It had to have been when it was like ABC Movie of the Week or something. Like it really has been a while for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I don't remember seeing it past being a kid. I'm fairly certain I've never actually even, despite owning it, I don't think I've ever even sat down and really watched the Donner cut, believe it or not.
But I felt like
because I'll tell you, I had not seen this except for when it was on TV, like you said, Bruce, on network television. And much like Adam, I don't even watch TV. But so it had been so long, but I remember as a kid, and I think all of us thought this way, that this was the best one.
yes, I kind of brought that point up to make myself, but I haven't seen it in a very long time. But back when I was watching it, I saw it a lot. Like this probably came on television twice a year. And it was appointment television for me for about a 10-year span. You know, like I can remember it being like 1990 and still seeing this on TBS or something. Like they would do these weekend specials where they would show 1, 2, and 3 and somehow forget to show 4 on TBS, and I would still watch them.
Now they've just replaced that with Star Wars. It's all Star Wars. You turn on TBS at any point, you're watching a Star Wars flick.
But it's always the prequels, it seems, whenever I turn it on.
Yeah, they got to give you the good stuff. It's what the people want.
Oh man, but yeah, and I'm most familiar with the television cut of this, which has a couple of key differences that maybe we'll bring up as we're talking about this.
Well, I will say this though, because a lot of times you hear about like director's cuts and everything like that, and they tend to obviously be much longer. Not so with the Donner cut. It's actually about 10, 15 more minutes less.
That's because they cut out all of the quote humor unquote.
No, there was tons of humor in this. It was a laugh riot. Come on.
But I mean, he only shot 75% of the movie. I mean, from what I understand, I have the DVD of the Donner cut, haven't watched it, but there's one part where they have like test footage that they had to work in to complete the story. Like it's honestly just like in a room, you're reading lines. It's almost like an audition type footage.
Yeah,
like
I've seen the footage that you're talking about, and it doesn't really match up. The hair's not quite right. The glasses are different than the glasses that they ended up going with. I don't know how they weave that into the story.
And for some reason, Peter Falk is playing Clark Kent.
You know, sometimes I like to fly into the sky.
Pardon me, ma'am. I'm sorry to bother you.
There's one more thing, Mr. Luther. But no, it's different. It's this is not the movie that I thought it was going to be. You're right, because I thought that was one of the biggest things that you heard from people all the time is like, dude, this one's got Zod. Obviously, we got Zod with the most recent Superman remake there with
Not
Snyder
my
and
Zod.
everything. Exactly. And but so it was obviously something that a lot of people hung their hats on. A lot of people dug the Zod stuff, and I do, this came out in what, 1981, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of people saw this, I think, like I said, at a young age and everything, and that's what kind of got into their head. And I talk about this a lot, where it's like people, you can love a movie, and that's certainly fine, but there's a lot of movies that you go back to that you loved when you're a kid, and you watch now, and you're like, was I just really stupid? What's going on? What's wrong with me?
The very first thing that blew my mind, because I had no memory of this at all, But this movie starts with what is about the same as a previously on a TV show.
Oh, it's amazingly so. It's a great, it's like take the opening from Superman, but also have a montage of everything that we just previously did. It's great.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. I love it.
Yeah, it's really a weird thing, and it just reminds you like what kind of challenges, I guess, people thought they had to deal with when you had 3-4 years in between movies and home video wasn't a thing. Somehow, Empire Strikes Back didn't feel like they needed to put a clip show at the beginning of the movie.
Previously on Star Wars.
Superman 2 did, which I can't believe as many times as I've seen this movie that I did not remember it starts with this totally waste of time clip montage at the beginning.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that the first Superman, the reason why that has aged far better than this movie is because Richard Donner is the director of the first one. Richard Donner knows what he's doing. He's great at his job. He takes great care of the movie he's making, and from all of the behind the scenes stuff that I've watched in the last day and a half about making Superman and Superman 2 is basically that the entire cast of Superman, once Donner isn't on for finishing out, because basically, they tried to shoot 2 movies at the same time.
Well, yeah, I was going to.
But the rest of the cast was like.
They checked out.
Yeah, completely.
Well, and there were a couple of different reasons for that, but originally the contract was, to do this Lord of the Rings style. We're going to shoot 1 and 2 as one long shoot,
right?
And then checks started to bounce, and then actors started to bounce.
Are you trying to tell me that the Salkins are a little bit was shady?
So, like 75% of this movie was filmed in like 1977, and then they brought Lester on board, and picked it back up in 1980. I mean, a 3-year break, and movies can do that, but the Salkins can't produce movies that can do that well. I mean, not to mention that Margot Kidder didn't do real well with success after Superman. I mean, I'm not like making allegations or trying to spread rumors. I mean, she was treated for substance abuse. She lost teeth between Superman, the first part of Superman 2 and the reshoots. She lost a significant amount of weight. She barely looks like the same person, and then sometimes like it's not even like in it'll be mid conversation where they went back and did some reshoots, and suddenly Clark Kent or Christopher Reeve has more muscle than he did the last time the camera cut, and she looks like she's lost 40 pounds and 2 teeth.
Exactly. Like she looks like she's lost weight, and then you like look at his shoulders, it's just like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bruce.
And that whole beginning part with the Eiffel Tower and the terrace and the hydrogen bomb, that was all Lester's work.
Yeah.
And because originally the idea was that nuclear bomb in Superman, and my memory, having watched both of these movies a lot, my memory was that they go back and it is that bomb from the end of Superman that opens the Phantom Zone. But no, they feel the need to introduce a whole second bomb, because why stick with one bomb when 2 bombs will do? That's like Occam's law or something. But
I can remember being a kid, and it just made perfect sense that when Superman throws the elevator from the Eiffel Tower out into space, it breaks open the Phantom Zone. That just seemed to clock with me.
Yeah. Well, the Eiffel Tower stuff was some of what Lester had reshot initially. And then at this point, 75% of the film was still directed by Richard Donner. So he still had the Directors Guild rights to be the director on this movie. The Salkins brought him in to watch the movie. And he left after the Eiffel Tower scene. Like, he didn't even stick around for the rest of the screening. He's like, nope, this is not my movie. And he's like, I don't care what you do, but you better not have my name on it as director. So they had to do they had to do reshots where all that was called for was the exact same shot, just reproduce it only with Lester calling action. But for some reason, Lester said, you know what would make this even better? A guy talking on a payphone while it's being actively blown down the street couldn't possibly still have a connection with anyone. How about an ice cream cone gets the ice cream blown off into the side of a guy's head? Like, he really added stuff that sticks out. I mean, the Lester stuff, you all know it when you see it. but a lot of the things he was really just supposed to go in and try to make it look identical to the original, and it didn't.
Well, because he needed, and with the Directors Guild, you need to have 50. You have to have shot more than 50% of the movie.
Yeah,
in order to have your name on it. The
Salkinds plan was, okay, here we're going to set this up so you can see what Donner did. Just do that again. Like, it was really an exercise in futility that they had planned. But I guess when you have made movies like Hard Day's Night, a hit when you see it. And he knew that Donner didn't have a hit, so he was spicing it up a little bit.
Sure.
That's what he was doing.
What a clean old man.
Can I give you one more backstory about Richard Lester?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I read, and stuff on Wikipedia, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, but John Williams didn't do the score for this movie, even though he had signed a contract to do the score for this movie. And there was a screening where one of the Salkinds, Richard Lester, John Williams were sitting down to watch the movie while John Williams had thoughts on the score. Something happened and Salkind had to leave the screening room for about 20 minutes. By the time he came back in, apparently John Williams was ready to strangle Lester and said, "I'm out. You're not going to get a John Williams score on this movie."
And it shows, but at least they were smart, like a lot of studios do, and just go all right, we're keeping those Williams cues because we got the rights to those. Those are ours. So, he ain't got to redo them, but we got them, so we're going to put those in there. And I mean, the theme is just so good that even despite him not really doing it, as long as you can throw those themes and stuff in there, sure, you'll get a lesser quality of the rest of the score. But man, when that Superman theme kicks in, gosh, there ain't nothing better than that.
I'm just so surprised rewatching this now, just how less than this movie feels like, because when we watched the original Superman at the very beginning of HMP, I really was surprised with how well that holds up. I mean, it doesn't hold up 100%, but it does hold up.
It really captures
not,
something.
And this does not. This is the exact opposite of that. It feels shoddy. It feels like it feels like it was made for children, which it was. So that's kind of ridiculous to say. But there's
including the Marlboro product placement.
I mean, there's no care at all in this movie. And so when watching it, I'm getting angrier and angrier as I watch it. It's one of those things where it was like, oh man, they lied to us. I thought this was the best thing ever when I was a little kid, and this is not great.
I think something that caught my attention, they're on the moon when they first get out of the Phantom Zone. We have Zod, Ursa, and Non on the moon with those astronauts, and the moon has low gravity, so they kick the guy, and it's like kicking a helium balloon. It just kind of, no matter how hard you kick it, it just kind of slowly floats off,
flies through the air.
And then there's the one guy, they throw him up and then pop the safety cord off. Ursa rips a patch off and deflates, and he falls over and just kind of lays there like he can't move.
Can I say this? If your country's job of putting together spacesuits is reliant solely upon the ability to have, if a patch gets ripped off, you're just out of luck, maybe you want to rethink things.
Well, I'll get back to address that some more, but that slow-mo makes sense on the moon. Like when they're fighting and everybody's moving in slow motion because of the low gravity, that makes sense. But at the climax of the movie, when they're fighting in Manhattan and things get thrown, they still move like they're on the moon. Like, that's the part that just doesn't hold up.
What's also, but I'd say speed itself has a giant problem within this show itself, is because it doesn't really seem like anybody's going super fast at any time. I never really got, especially in this one, that super speed feel. When he's flying to Paris to get to the Eiffel Tower there and everything, to get this, bomb that's going to go off at any second, he's cruising into Paris there, isn't he? Faster than a speeding bullet, my friends. Superman
They needed
fast.
like the little thing to pop up on the screen and say 4 days later, and then have him arrive in Paris at that rate.
He's just booking it along, and he's taking his sweet time. But so he can do that. He flies super slow, but he can while running just kind of change suits, as it were.
Now, you were talking about how any country that sends people into space should have a suit that doesn't require something as simple as a patch being ripped off to make it malfunction.
That's your life support right there, is this patch. Listen, you can do anything that you want in this. Don't touch that patch. If that patch comes off, you're out of luck. He's like, all right, what are the odds I'm ever going to take this patch off? Cut to Zod ripping your patch off.
One thing that has always struck out to me, like when I visit the Air and Space Museum in D.C., the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, which I've been to 4 times maybe, when you look at like the lunar landing module, like the actual real deal, it honestly looks like a 5th grade arts and crafts project.
Those things, when you get up close, it's just like, how did we do this?
The movie looks way more realistic than the real one does, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, you see what was inside when they went to the moon, and you're just like, how did they make it? This is just garbage. It looks like there's more, a scientific calculator's got more power than this thing does.
Yeah, you hear things like the Sega NES had more computing power than the computers that sent people to the moon for the first time. I mean, they really were just
we just lit dynamite on a bunch of people and just be like, you'll go to the moon.
We honestly MacGyvered a way to get people on the moon. That's weird. What we did. I'm pretty sure I saw like spearmint wrappers were used in the lunar module.
But that's because people were smarter 50 years ago than they are now.
That's probably very true.
It is true. Yeah. It is true.
But have you talked to Bruce? He'll tell you he's super smart.
Well, oh man, I wish I could remember the name of the effect. But actually, over the course of humanity, intelligence has increased generation over generation until now, and we're not sure what's going on to stop that effect. Maybe we've reached peak intelligence, or maybe something else is going on. But
anyway. You get to that peak intelligence like me, and it's just like, what are you going to do, right?
Looks like old Bruce, he sucked up all the smarts.
Now, what did you guys think? I could remember hating this part as a kid, and even I watched this twice this weekend, by the way, because there's this section where I just couldn't pay attention. I started grabbing my phone and doing stuff.
Niagara
and it's the
Falls.
Same. Yeah. Well, I can clearly remember as a kid thinking that it was cool that there really were hotels where you could pull a rope and the fire got big.
I'll say this though, it looked pretty. All the falls stuff looked really good. I'm like, I haven't been to the falls in like probably 15 years, but I was just like, it might be nice to go back to Niagara Falls. And then that's about the extent of it.
Niagara Falls in this movie is the Yoda of Empire Strikes Back. It's the same thing. The second they get to Niagara Falls, the entire movie just goes to a complete halt. All stop. Let any momentum we had, let's just stop here. We're going to be here for 45 minutes.
And I've been to Niagara Falls pretty recently, and the hotel room I stayed in wasn't nearly as elaborate as this one. First thing I did when I got to the hotel was asked about the rope you pulled to make a big fire, and the lady had no clue what I was talking about.
That stinks. What about a heart-shaped bed? Was that there at least?
No, it was like a Holiday Inn Express or something.
Have we been lied to?
I think we've been lied to a lot. Because I love this kind of stupid set design because it doesn't look like any hotel room that has ever existed on the face of the planet. It looks like just a black cyclorama in the background, and they're just like, just put stuff in front of it. They'll think it's a room.
Yeah, it really felt like they rented out a conference room at an actual hotel rather than rent a hotel room.
We'll throw some crap in here. There'll be a big giant a pink bearskin rug, and that'll be what we're doing.
And I love it that Superman gets a little mist from the falls on his glasses. He has to take them off to clean them. And that 1.5 second that he's cleaning his glasses, Lois takes a look and goes, uh-oh, I think this is Superman.
This Pulitzer winner has now opened her eyes for 4 seconds and goes, oh, son of a gun, this might be, no. And then goes on I'm going to kill myself in order to prove to you that you're Superman. So, hasta lasagna, I'm driving into the falls. What a mess.
In the daughter cut, she wants to prove Clark is Superman by pulling out a gun to shoot him. I heard
shoots him.
Yeah, that was the part of the screen test. Yeah.
Oh man, that would have really ratcheted things up a bit, and then it would have been great if he died and we all found out that Clark wasn't really Superman. We'd all been duped. But
he's just been running a trick on everybody. Is that?
But even before Lois darn near kills herself trying to trick Clark. Plus, I love it that he said, "Oh, if this is how she wants it, two can play this game." I love it how he committed to the bit.
Let her die.
I thought it was really good. Like, and then just kind of like, all right, what can I do outside of the periphery here? All right, I'll laser eye this branch off. That'll give her something to hold on to. But I honestly, I enjoyed that him just going, look, I'm not playing into this game. You're safe enough. You'll be fine. You know, I thought that was actually as silly and corny as it is. It worked.
But the kid that fell before Lois darn near killed herself, like the second piece of evidence. First, he took off his man. That kid that fell is everything that is wrong with both parents and kids in the world
and science. First of all, how slow is this kid falling? There's no
never touches the water. You know, I've been to the falls just like you have. You kind of would fall into the water, I think, a little sooner than
5 seconds tops 5 seconds. That's if you're being, you're at the tallest point and you don't hit anything on the way down. Maybe 5 seconds. And Superman flies in at a very leisurely pace just to get him.
I'm surprised Lester didn't just add a scene where the mom's yelling, "Good thing you ate all that cotton candy. Now you're falling slowly like cotton candy."
That is what's missing from it.
Just falls at like a.
And also if they could make it longer.
Yes,
it's such a snooze fest at this point because you got Lester behind the wheel. They're basically just stalling for time because they need to one, get him to the 50% mark, and two, they need to hold off right now because you need to have some sort of time while Zod and his gang are coming to Earth.
Yeah.
And it's just so boring.
And if it's boring now, imagine what it was boring. How boring it was when we were 6 years old. I mean, oh my goodness. But I think that scene with the kid has ingrained itself into my subconscious because to this day, anytime I'm anywhere with my kids where there's somewhat of a falling hazard, I'm hyper paranoid to keep them away from the edge. And my wife thinks I'm overprotective and I need to just chill out a little bit. But I think, no, I've seen Superman too. I know how this turns out if you're not constantly watching them
I'm just overprepared with I'm just even with myself, I'm just we're not going to risk any of this. Let's just kind of about 2 more steps back than what you really think you need.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun when I took my kids to Niagara Falls and had them look at it from on the parking lot of the hotel.
But
look, listen, you can kind of see it.
You can put a quarter into this thing and it shows you all the way across the thing. Go ahead and look at it. Here's a quarter. Knock it out.
Oh, no,
Don't
it's an American quarter. We needed a Canadian quarter.
Oh, darn it.
Let me ask you guys this question. Before you saw this week, where would you have put this movie in your own personal headcanon? Top
I would have said 50%? It was
I
would have said it was the best of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies before this rewatch.
Wow.
Maybe
really?
I'm showing my hand a little bit because I have changed that opinion.
Sure.
But I kind of I feel like at some point all of the superhero movie fans of the world got together and decided this was the good one. This was the best one. This is one of those great superhero movies.
Yeah, because when we were kids, it was. This was really great when you were a kid and you don't know any better.
And now we have 23 Marvel films that are absolutely amazing.
Let me say that if this was in the Marvel universe, let's say they come out with this next week, Marvel does, there would be a riot in the streets about how awful this movie is.
We trusted Richard Lester.
You just changed this to the original Marvel Captain Marvel and put it out there.
Yeah.
It still gets 87% on Rotten Tomatoes.
They only made $1 billion with that one.
When Captain Marvel takes the truck driver and zooms him down the countertop.
Oh,
yay!
Boy, we got it. We're going to talk a lot about. We're going to talk a lot about Rocky soon because that was Rocky the truck driver you're talking about.
Oh, I see.
But here's where this plot has lost me on 2 viewings this weekend, and as a kid, I never cared enough to pay attention to it. He goes out of his way to not save Lois directly, to try to keep a secret, and then he just turns around and it seems like he just admits it. I know he trips in the fire or whatever. But, man, it seems like he admits it awfully easily considering the lengths he went to avoid it the first time.
He wanted to get caught. That's one of them people. That guilty conscience was weighing on him. He wanted to get caught. He knew that bearskin rug was there. He tripped over that. I would almost say that was a unconscious thing that he did on purpose to just kind of go like, well, maybe I can kind of juice this along a little bit. Maybe she's yeah, I'm Superman.
Okay, want to go to the Fortress of Solitude? Come on, jump on my back. We're flying. I mean, it just like goes from 0 to 60 real fast there on the denial train to like taking her to the Fortress of Solitude. And here's the next part where I totally remembered this wrong. I remember this movie as the movie where Superman doesn't have his powers through like the whole movie.
Right.
But it is a very it's almost blink and you'll miss the part where Superman doesn't have his powers.
Yeah.
If not for the fist fight with Rocky, you could forget it entirely.
Well,
the only significant plot point that happens is he goes into the diner and Rocky, the truck driver, beats him up and he bleeds for the first time.
And also, this is the movie that sets the template for all superhero movies, where in the second movie, the superhero loses their power.
Yes, this sets all the templates. I mean, so much of what would be done in other second movies is laid out on this one because we all grew up thinking this was the best one.
But I think with him like losing his superpowers voluntarily, I mean, because most of the time when you do this in movies and stuff, it's another force that, takes the powers away or whatnot. But this was a thought that he put together and executed himself on the idea that that's what Lois wanted. He never really talked to her about what she would have wanted, because I'm going to be honest with you, Lois was not attracted to Clark. She was attracted to Superman. And he says, okay, I'm going to give up everything that I have, all my abilities and everything, without consulting anyone, because that's, my guess is, that's what she really wanted.
It was like, I don't know, and how do you guys feel about all of a sudden it's Superman's mom who's guiding him on this? Because Marlon Brando had shot all the footage with Donner, but then when the contract expired, the movie wasn't out in time, he was going to have to be paid more to use the footage he had already shot.
Well, not just paid more, sir. They gave the deal Marlon Brando made was for the first movie, he was going to make $3.7 million. And that's in 1978. He was making $3.7 million plus 11% of the gross.
Oh, there's no movie in history. There's no movie
who probably spent 3 days on the set. That is what they paid him. So when they're going to make Superman 2, they were like the Salkinds. I hate the Salkinds as much as anyone else does. But when it comes to Superman 2, they're not going to pay that dude $3.7 million and 11% of the gross this time. It's just not going to happen.
Unlike, Warner Brothers did pay Jack Nicholson that for the second and third Batman movies.
Did they really?
Oh, he has like the greatest movie contract of all time.
I didn't realize it was for sequels. I know he had a boatload on the first one. I didn't know.
Just look into that. He got a cut of at least the first three. I think his agent got a trilogy deal for him that even without appearing, that without him in the first one, there never would be a second one, was kind of the argument they were making.
Wow. That's amazing.
So he got points on the second and third one, though I don't think he got any on that wonderful fourth one. But
he wouldn't even cash that check.
and also, anytime that we're seeing any scenes with Gene Hackman, those are Donner directed scenes, because Hackman, like when the continuous shoot got interrupted, he's one of the people that bounced and said, "You ain't getting me back no matter what," until Superman 4, when somehow they got him back, and I still don't know how.
It's so great what they do with this in Hackman. First of all, legend Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman, come back for at least one more role before you kick off this planet, buddy.
Please.
Welcome to Mooseport 2.
Just give us one more good one.
One more, Gene.
I was really hoping, Tarantino would have put him in like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's just something. Just give us something. One more out of that guy. But
now I got
hold on.
Here.
Yeah, but I want to talk about like the hair thing, because he is bald in prison and then he comes back. Who decides that, like, listen, I'm going to put on a wig, okay? But the wig, I'm going to be losing some hair in the wig. That's not, I'm going to be balding a little bit. My hairline's going to be receded.
Nobody buys that wig.
I like wearing the wigs. I want people to know that I have hair, but I'm not. I'm not a greedy man. I just give me a little something on top. That's all I need.
But I love Lex Luthor in prison. First off, anytime we get to see Otis is a good time.
Of
Like,
course
I
you
Otis.
love Otis. No one is shocked Bruce loves Otis. No
Otis
surprise.
will.
But the first question I have, like, this never stuck out to me as a kid. I just took it at face value. But now as an adult, I want to know if prison is like a dorm room in college where you get to pick your roommate. Like, if you get convicted on the same day as somebody else that you know, can you just go ahead and say we're going to be roomies like you can in college?
You guys, I'm sending you to Rikers, and you're both going to be in the same cell. So I
like
hope
to
you
know
enjoy
how
each
you
other's
make a
company.
hologram out of old laundry parts.
I love it that they had access to a hologram machine, but the only form of flight available is a rather small weather balloon. Like that. I love the idea. And then do they fly that balloon like almost all the way to the North Pole?
They
Like, I
absolutely
see-
do. It's 2 days because they make a Miss Tessmacher pee joke.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I know they get the snow machine because I have no idea like how Lex Luthor came up with the snow machine. But at one point, Miss Tessmacher's driving the snow machine. Lex Luthor's riding on the back, and he's like saying "mush, mush" like she's a sled dog. I love all the stuff with Lex Luthor here. And I love it that poor Otis has to be cut like ballast because he's dragging the balloon down. Now, just as a kind of a side note, like I haven't been all that big on the Supergirl show on the CW since the first season. But when they brought in John Cryer as Lex Luthor, they brought in John Cryer doing Gene Hackman type Lex Luthor.
Get out of
And
here. I didn't know that. That's great.
It's awesome. Miss Tessmacher is on Supergirl now, and so is Otis.
Is
even
she
though
Miss Tessmacher?
no, it's some young actress, some young blonde actress that's Eve
Because I know
Tessmacher.
that the actress has been on Supergirl.
Yeah, but this is a young, it's a reboot, a young Miss Tessmacher, and Otis on the show is still dumb, but he's kind of muscular.
Ned Beatty's like, come on, man.
I could still do Otis.
I'm still here. I'm alive. I'm not getting
And
enough
that guy,
work.
that guy was in everything in the 80s and 90s. Like you couldn't even see a TV show or movie without him.
Well,
in
it's
it.
even like 70s. He was still everywhere, man. He was just like that guy that you just got, man. He
His
was
first
everywhere.
movie was literally Deliverance. I did not know that.
Yeah. Big stuff.
And memorable role.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah,
forget
you won't
that.
forget it. That's for sure. But that's one of those movies, though. If we could sidetrack here for a second, Deliverance is one of those movies where you don't remember that the big scene everyone remembers from that movie is almost at the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah, it's pretty close to the top.
and you still got like an hour and a half of that visual in your head, and you still gotta watch the rest of the movie.
And then you get to
You're
watch
like,
Burt Reynolds use a bow and just go to town. Oh,
which
it's
is
so
awesome.
good.
You get to see Ronnie Cox be awesome.
Gosh,
for a bit.
it's so good. That movie's
You
great.
know,
Man, that movie's good.
Was John Voight in that movie?
Yeah.
Yes, he is, and he's
What-
awesome too.
Exactly. That's
I'll-
one of John Voight's best performances. Oh, it's so
The
good.
only part of the movie that I can sit through is the kid playing the banjo. I like that part. Then I turn it off.
Well, things got a little bit rough right after that.
I know.
Right
I know.
after that too. There's a big scene that happens.
You have a
right
really
after the
great
banjo
time,
bit.
and everybody's jamming on the guitar, the banjo, and everything, and they're just like, "We're gonna take a left turn here, real quick."
I don't know what everyone's talking about. That kid with the banjo is just fine. Why does everybody have such a big problem with this movie? Anyway,
Holy
also
mother of-
the day for night in that movie is the most laughable day for night you've ever seen in your life.
We call that Jim Cameron Day for night. Throw a filter on it. It's fine.
Oh man, I won't go into details, but I recently filmed something that was filmed during the day, but as if it were day for night. I don't know what. I had a really weird experience filming a commercial, but that'll be for Dinger Zone next week, maybe.
Good deal.
Oh, nice.
But I love this fight between Clark and Rocky, the truck driver, in the diner. I know we've already dwelled on it a little bit. But I would think like the first day that I don't have superpowers, maybe I like avoid any confrontations while I'm filling it out a little bit. It's like the first day you get the cast taken off your wrist, which happened to me recently. You don't go out and arm wrestle people. You understand you got to get used to this weaker wrist.
Bruce, did
I
you
do
go
like-
to an
I
arm
do
wrestling
like the way
competition?
that Christopher Reeve looks at, like he reacts to his own blood, like his intestines are on the floor.
And all I could think was Ben Affleck saying, "I want to know, do you bleed?" Like, like I would love somebody to just splice that in there into that scene.
I gotta say, I think that Ben Affleck would make a great Rocky the truck driver.
The guy's a national treasure. He could be almost any part in this movie.
But we're really throwing around the phrase national treasure, but sure.
Listen, I will go so far as to say it. The man's had a rocky couple of years, but he's brought us. He's got more good than bad in his on the tally, you know.
Now, as a child, I was not a well-traveled individual. I had been in 1, 2, maybe 2 very, very small towns. That was the totality of my experience. So it was only watching this weekend that I realized when they went to East Houston that they weren't in Houston, Texas. Like as a kid, I just heard Texas. I assumed everywhere in the world was as small of a town as the one. Like compared to where I grew up, this place he goes, is it in Iowa or somewhere? It's not even in Texas, I found out. But this place that he goes to looked like a big city to me.
It's honestly, this is like one of the more forgettable parts of the movie. I'll be frank.
There's many forgettable parts of this movie.
This is one. This is certainly one.
I mean, literally, we're talking about 3 scenes in this movie that are good.
And I really sometime would love to sit down and just hear Richard Lester's theories on what powers Kryptonians have, because
that dude's dead, sir.
Well, I'm willing to take measures to have a seance and experienced seance mediums. I want to talk to this guy because he has Zod and company like shooting anti-gravity beams out of their fingers. I've read a lot of comics, man. That one was a new one to me.
Look, man, come on. When it comes to the superpowers in this movie, that's like not even the top 5 of most ridiculous things that happen.
I can't wait till the end where we get to talk about the only useful superpower that I think Superman has.
Well, we might as well just get into it now because I mean, it's already, we got like 10 minutes left of this thing.
Well, let's talk about the battle in Manhattan because Superman, first off, they make a big deal. Like he's given up his powers in order to have love. So he's trading his superpowers for love. But then like 15 minutes later, all he does, he goes and gets beaten up by Rocky the truck driver. Then he sees that Zod has taken over the world and made Lex Luthor president of Australia or something.
They really leaned into the by the way, when you give up these powers, there's no turning back. You are a human forever and there's nothing you can do about it. And all they do is basically shake a rain stick and he's back to, normal.
I mean, he just goes back and gets those powers so easy. Like, I would think I would give him up just to take a vacation during midweek. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I just want to take a load off for middle of the week. Make me appreciate these powers more.
I need a Wednesday.
But then he just goes, he gets them, comes back. We have the fight in Manhattan, which is very different. I'm sorry, the fight in Metropolis.
Well, you say that, but it's really it's the backlot fight is what it is.
And in Pinewood, I guess. But it's very different from the Metropolis fight in Man of Steel.
Yeah, that one was any of those were good.
But also the mass destruction. They managed to do a good job of putting enough people in peril that it counts without making it look like the city was exploding.
People are straight up being murdered. Yeah.
But, a lot of people, myself included, in childhood, thought this was the best fight scene in any kind of comic book movie ever.
Me too.
It's shot so badly.
I mean, the bus gets thrown and it moves slower than the astronaut being thrown on the moon.
That's what I'm telling you. There's a big speed problem with a lot of different things in this movie. Like Lester, I guess, just does not understand how speed works.
And
come on, no, of course he doesn't.
And then there's a scene. I also feel like a lot of first takes might have gotten used in the final cut because there's this scene when they're getting ready to throw the bus where Christopher Reeve as Superman is supposed to be worried. He's like, oh no, they're going to throw the bus. And he kind of giggles and then he gathers himself and looks serious again. And they just went with it. Like even he knows how ridiculous this is. But
and this is also where we get Superman's first new superpower. The human or the drill.
I love the drill power, man. I've always loved the drill.
That's
power.
it. Like
you're never going to convince me otherwise.
It's
on that
kind of corny, but it's
3.
a little fun,
But after the drill power, they realized that the way to get to Superman is just to indiscriminately kill humans. And they're right, because this gets him, even though he's winning the fight, even though it's 3-on-1 and he got hit with a Frisbee manhole cover that made him fly at the speed of smell into a truck. He flies away, leads them on this.
Hold on a second. So we just skipped over the fact that Superman is a drill. He literally drills into the earth so that we can go back to something that is like with the superpower, which I get, and we should talk about that. We just completely glossed over the fact that Superman becomes a drill in this movie. He literally starts spinning around like he's Wonder Woman and then goes into the ground.
But doesn't he pull off the same move in Superman 3, which we talked about last year or so?
He does, but it's the same. It's one of those things where it's like, and we glossed over it then too. Where like, what he's what is he doing? Why is he doing it like that?
It only would have been better if Non would have used his fist to like drive him into the ground like a nail. I love that move too.
It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, and it doesn't even make like. I mean, it's not even like the top 3 weirdest things that they have Superman do in this movie. It is honestly, ridiculous. And we're just like, oh, yeah, he's a drill. Anyway, I'm like, no, hold on a second.
Here's the thing, man. I'm the kind of comic book nerd that the physics of the drill procedure makes sense. So I got no problem with it.
But look, even if they do make sense, even if we go, comic books, even if we do that, why does he choose to do it that way? He's Superman. He can literally just jump and then fly in and like smash his way through. But Superman's like, no. I'm going to spin around.
And not a speck of dust on him either.
The one thing that heat vision is no match for is a poorly constructed backup mirror from a truck. Ooh, I like that too. But anyway, he chases them, or he runs away from them. They call him a coward. And I do like the scene where all the people on the street, something that is also in one of the Spider-Man movies, I feel like, is when they think Superman has been killed. They're like, hey, these guys killed Superman. Let's go get him. And, like the city actually rises up to support Superman, show how the community loves him.
I mean, that is all. I love it when they do that. I love that because that's Spider-Man 2, the Raimi Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, and then next thing you see is this big pulp of ground beef looking flesh where they've all been destroyed. But
yes, exactly.
Superman flies away to the Fortress of Solitude with Zod, Ursa, Non in pursuit. They've taken Lois Lane hostage or something. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor, has found the Fortress of Solitude along with Miss Tessmacher. They're conveniently there when the whole party shows up. And we get the old switcheroo. Well, before we get to the switcheroo, talking about Superman's powers, I got 2 things to say here. First off, the former prisoners from the Phantom Zone, Zod and company, they do it first, where suddenly they can, form
make doubles of themselves.
Yeah, I don't even know how to go about this. Flash has done these speed ghost kind of things, these after images. Zoom has done it. I've never seen a Kryptonian do it. And then Superman does it. 2 of them are holograms, but one crumbles like a plaster statue with no explanation. And at one point he says to Lois, I used to play this game at school, but I was never any good at it. So in Smallville, you got to remember, he didn't go to school in Krypton.
Right, he's not from Krypton.
In Smallville, he would do this at school. The only person I would assume in all of Smallville that can even come close to doing this, and he still didn't think he was very good at it. I can tell you, if I could do that when I was in elementary school, I would have clearly said I was the best in my school at doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and this is another one of those powers where what are we doing here? What are we doing? And did they cut like? It feels like an edit, like something they had to edit around because they didn't have the footage. Maybe
I don't know, but it also doesn't really move the story along. They just put it in there unnecessarily. They could have done the exact same story without that maneuver. But then I don't know if you're allowed to reference this fairy tale anymore, or I don't even know if you call it a fairy tale. But I know that Song of the South is not something you can buy online. But the story of
you won't be able to stream it either when new Disney Plus comes in. Yeah. Hey, good job, Disney.
It's the story of Brer Rabbit where he says, whatever you do, don't throw me in the briar bush. And of course he wants to be thrown in the briar bush because that's where rabbits are happy or whatever. I don't know a lot about rabbits. But
yeah, the racism kind of stopped midway with us.
Yeah. But anyway, don't throw me in that. Whatever you do, please don't feed me spinach. Popeye pulled that move too. I hate spinach. Please, whatever you do, don't shove that spinach down my throat. Well, here Superman's he tells Lex, let's lure them in that room because that's the room that makes Superman just man, regular man. And of course, I don't know
Regular
Lex's
man.
motivation because Lex is clearly on the losing side of this battle, no matter what happens. But then he's like my youngest child. And as soon as I say, whatever you do, don't tell Mom I bought you these Pokemon cards. Hey, Mom, look at these Pokemon cards Dad bought me. Like that is exactly what happens here. And Lex goes, hey, that's the molecular chamber. Put him in there and it'll make him like me. So they force Superman into what is the only safe place for a Kryptonian to be. He glows red and comes out, and he finally kneels before Zod before giving him the old knuckle cruncher, which is a great move. I've tried pulling that off before. It didn't work as well for me as it did for
We
Superman.
had this old teacher at when I was in high school. His name is Mr. Caskey. He's a nice guy, substituted and everything. But you'd go to shake Mr. Caskey's hand, and like it just became a competition, and he loved doing it. Just going through and giving the like toughest, hardest handshake ever, and that's what this felt like to me. Watching this was Zod getting his hand crushed. It felt like getting crushed by an old substitute teacher that I had way back when. Because you always would look this guy right in the face and just kind of go, "Oh no, it's nice to meet you, Mr. Caskey. Oh, it's very good that you're going here." And you're squeezing the ever living crap out of this old man's arm. But he was in Korea, so he doesn't give a crap, and nothing that you can do in your little teenage body is ever going to affect him.
And Margot Kidder has the best line she has in any Superman movie ever, where she turns to the lady and she goes, "You're a real pain in the neck," and punches her in the face.
Now, at least Zod kind of gets a respectable death, and I want to point out that these are deaths that we're seeing here. All the people that complained in Man of Steel that they couldn't believe Superman killed Zod at the end, that's what he does at the end of movies with Zod, starting here. He throws Zod in a crevasse, okay? But at least Zod got tossed into it. Non says, "Uh-oh, I'm going to fly away." And he does like a serious, like even the Three Stooges would have thought this was not believable, that he would decide to fly on the edge of a crevasse and fall down into it to his death, totally unprovoked. He basically just committed suicide by stupidity. And then Ursa gets punched into a crevasse to her death, or crevice to her death by Lois Lane. So they die here. I mean, those are bottomless pits with mist coming up.
We're also missing, don't forget, we're missing another awesome Superman power.
Yeah, I was about to. This was exactly where I was going.
Lay it on us. This one has gotten a lot of press over the years.
Adam, you do this one.
So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we just have a Superman symbol and we throw it on him and it grabs him up like a thing and then just disappears. No one says anything about it. No one knows where this S came from. I always remembered when I thought from when I was a kid watching it, I always thought like he basically peeled off the one that was on his chest. But no, it's worse than that. It just appears out of nowhere. He throws it and it goes over him like a little, just like a cellophane thing, and then just disappears. It's there for 4 seconds.
If there was a scene
it's so
where
unneeded and unnecessary. It's dumb.
Where a kid had a big sandwich and he could only eat about half of it. And he goes, "Rats, the rest of the sandwich is going to get stale before I'm hungry again." Then out of the blue, Superman flies down, throws an S to wrap the sandwich, flies away. That would have been great.
Thanks, Saran Wrap Superman. When he just goes on.
Of course, Lex Luthor goes, "They fell for our trick, Superman. We knew it. We really got them good, didn't we, Superman?" Oh man! And at one point too,
we got to go back for a second, Bruce, because we're really short sheeting the big cellophane S. So after he throws the big cellophane S, like no one says anything. Like Lois,
they literally just look at him.
Like Lois doesn't turn around and go, "Is that a thing you can do? You've been able to do that the whole time?"
What was that?
Like no one says anything at all. They're just like, "Oh yeah." He just takes a giant cellophane S and he throws it at people.
He does that,
and it wraps him up. It's pretty cool. And then it just vanishes. And that's just a thing he can do. We're all kind of cool with that.
That needed to be one of the tests in Shazam that Billy had to do for Freddy.
Oh man, that would have been
see
great.
if you can throw your emblem around someone. That would have been great. But
that would have been great.
The cellophane S. And 10 years ago, if you ask me which movie did Superman throw the cellophane S, I would have sworn it was Superman 3, because that is the one where weird stuff happens.
Yeah.
But nope. Lester gave us the S right off the bat, I guess.
Oh man, so ridiculous.
Then the bad guys are murdered. But in television, the television cut, the one I've seen so many times, they actually show them being pulled up out of those crevices, having handcuffs put on and taken to prison. So they did actually show them getting sent to prison for the TV cut because they are like, oh my goodness, this is a children's show where Superman murders people. We're going to re-edit this for television. And they, I guess, were able to get Terrence Stamp and company back to do those reshoots.
I don't know if you were in the Phantom Zone for, let's say, 30 years, because that's, I don't know. Maybe you don't know how long it is.
The original sentence was 40 years.
Okay, well, let's just say, well, they got out before parole, so.
Yeah.
But you're flying around, like, is that better than local jail on Earth, or is that worse? I don't know where I land.
I think that based on how drunk what's-his-name was able to get in Supergirl while in the Phantom Zone, I would pick the Phantom Zone over American Prison.
Yeah.
Was it Peter O'Toole? Is that who that was?
Yeah. I believe it
because he was definitely wasted every scene that he was in that movie.
And we haven't said the man's name until just a couple seconds ago. Say what you will, and the role's not written particularly great and everything, but Terrence Stamp is just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he is the gold standard
for what he has
bad
to
guys,
deal with. He's really great.
Yeah, but I do remember him being more imposing as a child than he is here. But he's a great actor. I got nothing you can say wrong about Terrence Stamp as Zod. But let's just go ahead and get to what I'm dying to get to, the best of all Superman's superpowers,
yes.
And that is the power to end a bad relationship, to get out of a bad relationship with a single amnesiac kiss. Because, man, in my younger days, how much pain and suffering I could have saved if I had that one superpower.
He eternal sunshine of the spotless mind's her.
Yeah.
I mean, as three guys who have all definitely had some rough relationships on our resumes, you two have to agree with me. Wow, man, if you could like have that, because in a relationship that's not going well, you kind of have like the day or the week or something where you realize, okay, boy, this is going to be a painful exit. Wouldn't it be nice if just like, as far as I can know, he didn't even have to get an attorney or anything. He just like kissed her and it's over with.
No, this will be fine. I will say this though, all things, what they are. Both, it's really good acting actually from both of them. Like, it's stupid, it's corny, it doesn't need to be there, but both of them, for what they're doing, are selling it pretty well.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that. But I don't know, man. This is another one too. Like, as a kid, I remember Zod dying and then I'm off to bed. Because I'm a kid and this thing started at 8. It probably goes past 10 o'clock with commercials on TV. So as soon as Zod is dead, I'm off to bed. I didn't even watch this memory wiping kiss very many times growing up, because there is nothing that happens after Zod dies that any kid cares about.
It's true.
No, not really. They're just, exactly. It's bedtime. So, but before we put this bad boy to bed, we have to find out how this film relates to Sylvester Stallone.
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Ooh.
Frank J. Affman was the financial consultant on Superman 2, which is another way of saying he was a banker in the Netherlands. He would find money to make movies for horrible people like the Salkinds, but his first movie was 3 Days of the Condor, which is one of those movies that everyone thinks is amazing because of its name. But it has the same pacing as watching the security camera feed inside the lobby of a poorly attended hotel. Frank J. Affman would go on to finance some of the biggest movies of my childhood, both Terminator movies, Hoosiers, and Rambo 2 and 3, starring the little-known Mexican character actor Sylvester Stallone. In the original screenplay for First Blood Part 2, Rambo was supposed to have a young, wisecracking sidekick. Stallone nixed the idea, but the studio was in talks to have his younger sidekick played by John Travolta. It's difficult to think of 80s Travolta as young, but when compared to Stallone, who was already an old man in the Rambo series, I guess that would make Travolta a kid. And in Rambo 3, Rambo's horse is the same horse that was ridden by Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Now that is a famous horse.
Wow.
Frank J. Affman died a few years ago, but I can guarantee you two things about Mr. Affman. One, the Salkinds, who are universally hated throughout all of Hollywood for being cheap, backstabbing D-bags who will yell at anyone for the slightest transgression, never yelled at Frank J. Affman because you don't mess with the money guy. Nope. And two, How many other bankers do you think we're ever going to get name checked on a podcast about superhero movies?
Good point.
I'm guessing the over-under at 1. So he did something right while he was alive. And there you have it, HMPers. Your Stallone connection this week is Frank J. Affman. Thank you. I'm Sean Koufax. Thank you.
I actually recently watched a video with Stallone talking about Rambo and everything, and I don't know how, accurate all of these things are. Stallone says a lot of things over the years. But apparently, he was one of the ones who decided to cut practically everything that he said out of that film. They shot a whole bunch. Actually, Rambo was quite talky and made a lot of, kind of jokes and other sort of things. They took it all out. That's what I've heard. So it's very interesting stuff. All right. So before we get down to it, we have what we call the Robin rating system here. For those of you that are new, you can head on over to Facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast, and it's right there at the top of the page. Like the page at the same time, why don't you? And apparently I found the big thing that people like, superhero memes. I've been posting them, and they've been getting more likes and shares and everything than anything I've ever done before. So more of that will be coming your way, fear not. Bruce, where does Superman 2, the theatrical cut, fall on the Robin rating system for you?
Well, several years ago, I was talking about this movie with my banker, a gentleman named Roy. Little shout out to Roy there, since, he's a friend. But anyway, I said, it seems like for years, I just accepted that 2 was better than 1, like we've said. Once again, I was just a member of the pack. I felt like there was this general consensus that Superman 2 was better than Superman 1. But on rewatch, there's a whole lot more magic in 1. There's a lot more timeless appeal in the original Superman, the movie. Whereas 2 looks very dated. You can really see the struggles of this movie's production woes up on the screen. It's still probably the second best Superman movie for me, but not the best like I remembered it. Also, it's not really even great. Superman movies, other than, Superman the movie, aren't knocking my socks off. So I'm giving this a Damian Wayne.
All right. Sean?
This is the first movie we have seen since we've done this podcast. The first movie I've seen that it is worse than I remember it being. And I mean by a lot. Like, there's some things that you see it again and you're like, oh, I didn't remember liking it. I remember liking it more than I actually did, but not like this. This movie was like high up on my list, and now it is not. I am going to give this movie a Stephanie Brown because it is bad.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning in between. I watching this thing. It felt like is either Stephanie Brown or Damian Wayne and everything, and that leads me to my choice, which is an unofficial choice that's actually not on the chart, and that's Carrie Kelly. That's basically like a Damian Wayne, but it's also saying at the same time, this will do well for a particular type of group. If you really grew up watching this movie, you may still enjoy it to have that kind of, if you throw on the nostalgia glasses and everything and remember those Saturday afternoons watching this or whatever, that's kind of cool. But at the same time, too, if you really look at it objectively, this is not a great film by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm just going to go right there. This is kind of almost in between you guys, I guess, and just go Carrie Kelly for this. So, yeah. Well, everybody, that is it. We have now covered all the Christopher Reeve Superman films. Will we ever cover the Donner cut? Well, not anytime soon. I'll tell you that much. We're Supermaned out for a little bit. But what we're doing next week, we don't quite know. You know who's going to find out first, though? The people that support us over at patreon.com/HMP. You guys are going to hear us discuss what the heck we want to watch in, a week's time. So join us over there. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Hey, you can go to look for Chubby Wizard. We took a week off. We had some issues with our schedule this past week, so we'll be coming back with our talk on Endgame this upcoming Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere around there. And you can always go to Amazon, where you can find Chubby Wizard, Wrath of the Manticore, Dragon and the Needles and its sequels, and a very beloved book called Nerd Spawn Genesis about podcasters who adopt a superhero, so to speak. So check those out. They're all available on Amazon.com or whatever your country uses.
And Sean, what's going on in your world?
I would like this time to point out that if you have donated to HMP and you have not gotten a nickname, then please write in. Please write to us either through Facebook or through email, and we'll give you that nickname. Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
And I'll also say, if you do have a nickname, write it in. We're trying to make a master list for everything. So if you've gotten a nickname, again, just remind us, because I'm making that master list just to make sure that we've got everybody who's got their proper nicknames and stuff like that. So
that's a good point. Yeah,
hereamoviepodcast@gmail.com. We really appreciate that. That's it, everybody. Join us next week when we're talking, well, who the heck knows? So that is it. Join us next week for Sean, Koufax, Bruce Leslie. My name is Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Eve.